All right, y'all. Another week in the books. Bearded Bros Golf Show. A little something different this week. We have a special. Well, let me introduce ourselves first. I'm Rod.
And I'm Marcus.
All right. Already struggle on the struggle stream, and we have a special guest. We're gonna let him introduce himself today.
How's it going,
Dominic, you can go ahead
everybody?
and introduce yourself. Cool.
I'm Dominic Reed. I am an assistant golf professional at Westwood Country Club out in Vienna, Virginia, and I'm happy to be here with you guys today.
Awesome.
Good to have you.
Appreciate that, man.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Love having guests and talking a little bit of golf. So we're gonna jump straight into it, man. Um, How'd you get introduced to the game of golf? And, was there someone in particular that introduced you to the game?
Yeah, so that's actually a question I get asked quite a bit, and it's one for me that, you know, I got into golf in probably a little bit of a different way than most people would have kind of imagined. So I got into golf actually because my middle school started a golf team. So all my buddies, we grew up playing everything, mostly basketball, baseball, football. But whenever they started this golf program, we all just decided like, hey, might as well try it out, right? And man, there was no one person that really introduced it to me. It was literally my R7 driver that I was able to pick up from my coach. I hit that thing in the screws one time, man, and it was game over from
Just
there.
hooked, huh?
I was hooked, man. I played baseball for like 10 years, and I looked at my folks maybe like 3 weeks after that and was like, it's a wrap for baseball. We are
That's
golfers for life
dope.
now, man. Yeah, so man, so I'm a first generation golfer in my family, so it's been cool to
Okay.
see the progression of how getting into the game, and now my entire family's involved in it. We're getting as many people around us involved in it. It's been a cool journey, man.
That's dope. Did you think there were things from, your baseball experience that helped you in the golf swing, or did any of that translate at all?
Well, I mean, the athletic ability for sure definitely translates, right? Like you get kids involved in multiple different sports, especially at a young age. They're learning to develop motor skills that they can take and use not only in golf, but in basketball, football. Like there's just so many correlations just with movement, and the more that we get, these young athletes into golf, you're going to start to see a lot of these kids that are able to, quickly transition from, whatever said sport into golf now. It's just going to be an entire wave. I mean, we're already seeing it. Like you look at the junior tournaments with the kids now, these kids are shooting 68s like it's nothing. Like, and you're getting laughed if
Yeah.
you're shooting par, and that was not how it was when I was coming up. And I know, and that's speaking from experience, right? Like of having older people in the business, saying like, man, we used to shoot 76, 77, and it was a good score. These kids are out here shooting 67s and getting lapped.
Right.
It's crazy,
Yeah.
man.
Well,
You're gonna see a lot
we've
of
been
that.
saying that we've been seeing these kids that coming out on, earlier and earlier and not afraid to go low.
Hmm.
So I 100% agree with that. It's coming along quicker for these guys. Um, so that's interesting. I do want to ask a quick question on that.
Hmm.
So you mentioned the athleticism coming into golf. What do you think about this as it relates to like the golf ball rollback and just players getting bigger, faster? Equipment kind of is leveled out at this point. There's not much you can do with the
Hmm.
technology part of it. But what do you think about the golf ball rollback as it relates to athletes evolving?
Well, the rollback's a really tough one. I think they really missed on the public relations side of things with this. Just by
Great.
calling it a rollback, they really like did themselves. They kind of shot themselves in the foot with that. If you kind of take a look at the data, like there's nothing in there that's going to be particularly, damaging to the sport, at least in my opinion. Like you're going to see the longest guys get a little bit shorter, but the
Yeah.
longest guys are still going to be the longest guys. You're not going to
True.
see like the Rory McIlroys hitting it the same distance as Brian Harmon. Like you're just not. So you're still going to see the guys trying to maximize, especially they're going to be maximizing their clubs at this point. Like, I mean, you see the release of all the new drivers this last week with the 10K MOI. Like they're going to do
Yeah.
everything they can with the driver head and with the new shaft technology to be able to maximize the golf ball that they're going to get to play. And so, the more interesting, I think topic of conversation is less about the players, that are going to be affected, but more so about, the companies. I mean, there's a very
Hmm.
stark difference between how Titleist responded and how almost every other golf ball manufacturer responded. And
Definitely.
it, and you're going to see that like it's going to be a huge thing for them in the next few years. And that's where I think if the ball rollback changes, it's going to be because of some litigation between Titleist and USGA R&A.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they went after
Yeah.
him pretty hard about that. So they definitely
Mm-hmm.
might go a little bit on the antagonist side and try to slow that up. So I mean, all the more merrier for it. But I mean, personally though, Dom, like what you think about like college golf nowadays? Do you think it's well, you already mentioned it was already a different game than when you were in there playing. What do you think are some of the differences nowadays between the two, generations really?
Well, I mean, every generation grows on the generation before them. And I think the generation of kids that are coming up now are the products of, the guys that you're seeing like from around Spieth's age, right? Because that
Yeah,
was like the first generation of golfers after Tiger who learned from him. First ones getting in the gym, first ones, doing the mobility routines. And you're just seeing the progression of human performance basically getting into golf, with
Yeah.
companies like TPI and, other, trainers that are across the nation that we've seen, working with a lot of the tour players, these guys and that information is getting out there and that information is getting into the hands of the kids. And you've got so many good coaches across the country, whether they're in the golf side or they're in the fitness side, that are able to, help that translate with these kids. And I just think that a lot of people are starting to become better specialized professionals. And so you're going to keep seeing the kids getting better because they're getting better information earlier in their career. And,
yeah,
and because of that, golf is in a really exciting place. Like, obviously there's a lot of turmoil that's happened over the last couple of years, especially from between LIV and PGA Tour, and kind of what's going on right now with the rollback. But golf's in a really good place if you start to like look at the depth of the game. These kids that are
definitely.
coming up, they're pushing a new generation of golf, and it's exciting to
Yeah.
see, man.
Do
Yeah,
you
we've
think
been
there's
mentioning that.
enough? Go
Go
ahead,
ahead, Rob.
Marcus.
I mean, I've just been saying we've been mentioning that pretty much. I mean, going on like half a year now. How about, I mean, how much the game is growing, how much
Mhm.
depth it is in it to where we could just really make really big steps. I mean, as far as growing the game, and then they're doing a lot of steps and a lot of turmoil to kind of turn that back. And it's kind of like,
Mhm.
it's just funny to me. But go ahead, Rob, my fault.
Well, I was going to say, do you think you mentioned Tiger? Do you think the Tiger
Mhm.
impact is still going to keep people interested in the PGA Tour and it's still kind of the gold star for people to shoot for? Or do you think Liv is actually going to start being able to poach some of those younger generational players?
I mean, if you look at the younger social media, like no one cares about the difference between the PGA Tour and Live. These kids want to play. They're going to play wherever they decide to play. And I think that's what you're going to start to see. The opinion probably held by a lot more players out there is that you're going to see some guys take a deal that you probably 2 years ago said that they never would. And then you're
Yeah,
going to see a lot of the younger kids that are coming up that are fresh out of college that are going to get that offer and they're never going to say no. So as much as I want to say that Tiger holds this, this this thing to the tour, which he does, I think, the management of the tour has really done a disservice to the players. And that's a relationship that is going to take a really long time, I think, for them to end up healing. Um, because you're going to see, a lot of players that probably, decided that they are going to go just because of what happened with all those kind of closed doors conversations that they were having with Piff and Liv. Like it doesn't make sense for them not to anymore, especially with the merger that's going to happen. I mean, look at John Rahm. He was adamant about not
true.
going. And
Yeah.
then, you get kind of blindsided by the management of the tour. It makes sense, right? He obviously wanted to play the Ryder Cup, so that's why you didn't see him do it earlier.
Yeah.
Right.
You're gonna see a lot of
Um,
guys doing it.
It's funny to me though. Like, so we asked Mike. We had him on the show a couple of weeks ago. You remember Mike?
Hmm.
We hypothetically, what's your number? If you picked it back up, if you went away from teaching for a little bit, made that last little for sure professional push, what would be your number if like Liv was like, "Yo, Dom, what's up? What's up, Dom? What we need to throw you? What's your number?"
Bro, I work on a salary. I mean, that number's pretty low. If I'm being honest, sure, you throw 100K at me right now. I will not play another thing ever again. I mean,
I like I
yeah,
like
I'm just
that
Cool.
gonna keep it
honesty
100 with you, man.
for sure.
Um, Before we get too far down the line, I do want to kind of circle back to your journey. At one point, after picking it up in middle school, did you realize you had a true talent for golf, and did you start thinking about playing college golf?
I mean, so the high school that I played for, actually, we weren't very competitive. And by my last couple of years, like my junior senior year, there was only two of us on the golf team. So it was a lot of
Hmm.
individual
Wow.
golf, and so I was
Oh, you did a
basically
lot of
kind of like,
amateur events and stuff.
yeah, man, and I was kind of dolo. Like every time we'd have an event, it's pretty much me traveling and playing with like the best players that they had on their teams, just because, word kind of got around of like me shooting some good scores, like, and nothing like out of like crazy, but I mean like a lot of 72, 73, 74. So at that point, it's pretty good, pretty good playing. So I would get a chance to play with some other good players, but I didn't ever really have that like ability to say I was on a team that was going to, help me pursue to play in college. So,
Yeah.
it was kind of on me, right? And so really when I kind of decided that I always wanted to play sports in college, right? So, there was always that determination and drive, and I'm a very type A person. When I get started on something, I'm 100% in on it. And so I would spend like 8 to 10 hours a day at the golf course in the summer times. And then pretty much all other free time that I had during the school year, I was at a golf course. So I was out there like hustling with like the 50, 60-year olds at the local munis, right?
Yeah, playing the money games. Hell yeah.
Playing money games, figuring it out, right? And eventually was like, all right, like I gotta get, to a point where like I'm gonna play for colleges, right? And so I started my recruiting journey, and I came from a average to middle class family, right? So like I didn't have the money to go play AJGAs. I wasn't playing any national events. So, luckily the Houston Golf Association, really they held tournaments throughout the year. And so I played everything through the HGA, was a player of the year, well, runner-up player of the year a couple of years in a row. And so from that point on, I basically kind of took those scores, started going to colleges and saying, hey, like I want to come play for you, got
You were your own recruiting service.
I was my own recruiting service, man. I made my
Dope.
own I made my own highlight video, and kind of did my own thing, man. And so, sent a lot of emails out. That was actually the first time in my life that I really like sat down and was like typing out emails, like personalized emails to every coach. And I took it as serious as like I had been taking it for the last like 6 years prior to that. So, just got to a point where I was like, all right, there's not a lot of spots for me at the D1 level, just because I don't have that national record.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, like they're just not gonna you're not gonna get looks, unless you're playing in those national tournaments. So, which is an unfortunate part of our game, because it is so expensive. Like if you do get priced out, but you are gonna see
Right.
some of those things start to change, with players being able to acquire sponsors, and having that not be against NCAA rules. You're going to see that be a bigger thing. But kind of back to the story, I end up going to play for a Division III school my freshman year of college, right? So University of Laverne, Southern California. I was hyped, man. Left Houston for the first time, moved to LA, and was a part of a team that was a really like close knit, tight team, top five in the nation for D3, and then played really well my freshman year. So ended up, being ranked top 20 in the nation as a freshman. Used that as kind of the catalyst to transfer to a D1, and went to Cal State Fullerton for about 2 years. Unfortunately, there it was not the right place at the right time for me. It just didn't really work out. Had a lot of injuries while I was there. Hurt my wrist, hurt my back, hurt my knee, and it was unfortunate into my college golf career. It was a quick exit to my college golf career. So I ended up moving back to Texas after that. And that's basically when the teaching career kind of started. Um, was lucky to get in the door with some really, really good professionals in the Houston area who actually spent a lot of time working with, various PGA Tour players and college golfers, Corn Ferry golfers, Latin Tour golfers. So just kind of sat there, man, and was able to soak up all that knowledge, man. But
That's
that
dope.
Yeah,
was
that's a
it was crazy story for college.
That's a good transition because I mean, next up, of course, is how would you say who got you? Like, who would you say? Would you point to one coach or person or course that got you really on your coaching journey where you started? Like, what would you say would be your first real club that you were at where you were like, I'm here to teach and I'm here to get people better at golf?
Yeah, so I was actually I was lucky enough to learn from the guys at the Axis Golf Academy. They're at Black Horse now, but when I was with them, they were at Wood Forest. This was kind of, I want to say, about 5 or 6 years into them, really starting their academy. But Alan Hody, Ben Willman, EJ Kim, I know Sean McEwen's now part of their crew. They've had guys like Chase Cooper on their crew, so great guys to learn from. They were the first group of guys that I was able to be around that I would consider high level performance coaches, where
Yeah,
they're looking at everything from equipment to body type to biomechanics. They had TrackMans before everybody else had TrackMans in the Houston area. They had Swing Catalyst before everybody else had Swing Catalyst in the area. Um, and they were constantly doing research. They were constantly learning, having people come in, instructing them on, all kinds of biomechanics stuff. So that really kind of sparked my interest into teaching. Um, just being around that environment, man, it was something good to soak up for a couple of years.
that's dope. And would you say you start? Would you say now or versus when you started, which would you prefer to teach, or what have you transitioned to teaching more of? Would you say you like adults? Would you say you like novice, beginners, or would you say you like to be more on that top level where you're trying to make that junior, trying to make that mid-level amateur or whatever to that next level where they're competing and shooting their personal best? Or do you like getting
Mhm.
people in the game and growing it? I need you to work on your grip. I need you to work on your takeaway, things like that.
Yeah.
Which one would you say you gravitate more to?
That's an interesting question, man, because like where I'm at now in my career, it's so diverse in the amount of players that I coach, from the very beginning stages of ladies golfers and men golfers and junior golfers to, guys who are playing at the highest levels of golf at this point. Um, I would say that, what really sparks my interest on a day-to-day basis is working with the guys that are at the professional level. Um, at some point, it's probably going to be more of that and developing juniors and college golfers.
Yeah,
But I also have a large passion for, working with the young juniors that we have and helping them develop to try to get to college golfers. I would say those would probably be the two that, when I look at my book in the morning and I get to see who I'm working with, those are the days that I enjoy the most, I would say.
love
Yeah.
that.
So you started in Houston, of course. The weather's
Hmm.
great year round for the most part,
Hmm.
right? You have a
Hmm.
lot of days in the 60s, and you're now in Virginia.
Hmm.
How does that influence who you get to work with? A lot of pros end up in warm weather climates, Florida,
Hmm.
Arizona. How does that direct where you're going to end up in your career? Do you think about that currently, or is that down the line?
It's always something to think about. Honestly, I've been lucky to be able to live in three different coasts now, from having the West Coast back in college to the East Coast now, and then home being back in Texas. It's interesting. I think about it a lot, but I really enjoy the spot that I'm in now, being in Virginia. Weather's great here 9 months out of the year. I don't have to deal with Houston weather for 4 months out of the year. That summertime, man,
Definitely
that summertime is something else.
not
But
fun.
it's not fun, and it's kind of interesting. This is the first year that I've truly had an off season. I feel like I'm on a teacher schedule because we got 9 months of craziness, man. We got 9 months of
Yeah,
craziness. I mean, I'm talking
People are hitting it
80-hour
hard during
weeks.
those times.
Man, you would not believe how hard they're hitting it during those times.
Mm,
But it's interesting because the crew of professionals that we have up here in the Mid Atlantic section for the PGA, and just all the other professionals that are in the area, whether they're teaching professionals or playing professionals. There's such a large community of good golfers here and good professionals here. I think it's been something for me that's helped, grow myself personally in the field. And so, it's always interesting to get to these new areas and you really start to kind of dive in and explore. And the golf here is great. So, you know, as much as I would like to say at some point we end up going somewhere else, for right now, man, this is home.
You're enjoying it.
Yeah, man.
So what are you doing during the off season now that I'm sure your course is closed? You like you said you hadn't seen 60-degree weather in quite some time. So what occupies your time during these few months?
Brother, I'm freezing my ass off playing golf. This is the only time I got. Man,
Okay.
there was snow on the ground today. We were thinking about going out to play.
Oh wow,
Yeah, man, we get
that's
the ski shoes
crazy.
going. No, but
Yeah, I couldn't
I
imagine that. I couldn't even imagine. We have 2 weeks where we're gonna be under, freezing, and I was urging myself to get out there yesterday before the cold front hit. So I can't even imagine.
yeah, no, it's funny because there's a lot of younger pros in the area too. So we've been having regular games, just kind of traveling around, seeing all the different golf courses in the area. I've been lucky enough to been able to get on a couple of golf trips recently, so that's been very very clutch to skip out on some of the cold weather. But we're taking a lot of time to do planning as well for next season. A couple of things on the player development side that we're really trying to work on is just how do we keep, expanding our juniors and ladies programs. It's kind of one of the bigger responsibilities I've been taking on for this off season. We've been lucky enough to partner with a company called Operation 36, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with them, but they they've got a great model for how to get golfers involved in the game, and it gives it a
Hmm.
very skill based and objective based goals for the golfer to understand how their progression needs to start from the very basics of the game of just getting started on how to hold a golf club to our college level golfers and really helping them understand nutrition and course management and how to take care of their body. It's just such a it's a more structured way to help someone progress through their journey of golf. And so it's been a good off season time to been able to actually get in there and really dive in and make some great curriculum for the next 9 months that we're about to get into.
It's cool. I just
Yeah,
pulled up their
that's
website.
good.
It seems pretty in depth, and
Hmm.
I already like it. I mean, you look at a lot. Sometimes you see some of these developmental websites, and they don't have their stuff together, but you can instantly tell. That's probably a really good program
Yeah.
for your AMs and just to get into and structure the teaching side of it for you guys.
Hmm.
Quick question before we get too far down the line that Michael threw up, Michael Pimentel, and you
Hmm.
kind of answered this earlier. Question for Dom: what is something that you would say to college golfers who want to go pro, but may not have all the resources compared to bigger schools like SEC type schools?
You know, the resource part is the hardest part about playing golf. There's no way to sugarcoat it. You need 70,000 a year if you really want to play competitively across the country. You got to have that 70,000 in the bank or sponsors, someone backing you up, and that's a hard thing to do. It's a very hard thing to do. You got to try to cut costs at every single event that you can go to. You got to get connected with other pros in the area. Guys splitting the house can always help you cut some costs, but for those that are trying to go pro, one of the bigger things that I would always recommend too is always got your USGA qualifiers, you've got your state open qualifiers, you've got
Yep.
qualifiers to get on the PGA Tour events, like to get in the Monday qualifiers. You got to play in every single one of those. And if you're really trying to make it in the game and actually play competitively, it's also not a bad idea to get into the PGA. You take a teaching, pro job at a golf course, you take a entry level assistance from, job, you get into a section, and then boom, you've got 16 plus tournaments every year that you get to go play in. 16
Hmm.
tournaments that you have an opportunity to make some money in, and then you just make those connections. at some point you may get yourself into a club that and this is one of the things that I would say about the Mid Atlantic is that they've got a lot of clubs where they have good players
A
that are
lot. Hmm.
teaching professionals, right? That spend 20 hours a week teaching and another 25 hours a week playing. Their club's paying for them to go play in events. They're playing all the time with members. So there's a lot of ways that you can be in the industry and start to make your way through professional golf. And then finally, I would always say that a Q school is maybe better than going to play in a ton of mini tour events. Um,
Hmm.
Latin Q school is going to cost you 2,500. I think maybe even I think 3,800 might have been this year. You could also go play Canada Q school. That's a cheaper event option. DP World Tour. There's a lot of other tournaments that you could get into for their Q school that obviously you got to make those travel commitments. But again, those are where you start to meet other professionals and you guys are figuring out how to travel together, cutting costs at every corner that you can. And then the biggest thing that you can do for yourself whenever you're trying to, make it on that pro circuit is just play well. The money to enter
Right.
into the event is always going to be like shit, right? Like, how am I going to come up with this? Well, the best way to come up with it is to
Yeah.
shoot good scores.
Play better. Yeah.
And if you don't feel confident enough that you can do that, don't play. Go figure it out until
That's
you can do that. And
Great
that's
that's
just
perspective,
legit.
B.
it's harsh because everybody wants to be out there, but these guys are really good, and you are going to get your teeth kicked in if you are not confident in what you can do.
You you put
I'm gonna answer my
you nailed
mom's.
it.
I'm gonna answer my mom's question real quick. Dom,
Mhm.
if you can let the crew know where you currently are located.
Yeah, so I'm at Westwood Country Club in Vienna, Virginia. We're a 1,200 member private club, kind of about 7 miles outside of downtown DC. So DMV area.
Wow. I didn't know you were
Yeah,
that
man.
close to DC.
Very
Yeah,
No
man.
wonder
metro.
it's so cold as hell up there.
We're real close. We're real close. We've been all over DC this last year. It's been fun. It's a cool place, man. If you guys haven't been, man, you got to get up here.
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt.
Um,
We've always talked about how golf is very different, grasses and just the layouts are very
Hmm.
different from down in the
definitely.
south. So we have talked about making our way east just to experience
Yes,
that.
bent grass, man. You'll never want to go back to playing Bermuda. I'll tell you what.
Really?
It's
Yeah,
Right.
intense.
there's a couple here locally that in
Yeah,
DFW, and it's a hard grass for them to keep up here
yeah.
in this climate. But yeah, it is
Hmm.
definitely different than Bermuda greens or just
Hmm.
straight, whatever we play. Yeah.
Most definitely, most definitely. It's
That's
crazy.
dope.
Yeah, man.
Did you feel like in connection with like your section and everything, did you feel like you had that opportunity when you were in Houston? Did you feel like playing in the Southern Texas section or stuff like that? Did you feel like you had that same opportunity to go out and compete for money and stuff like that? Or were
Yeah,
you not that established yet at that moment? Or were you
I,
trying to do in different endeavors?
I was kind of in different endeavors at that point. I mean, at the point in which I was in Houston, really working through everything, I wasn't involved in the PGA section just because I was
Mm,
focused on running my own business at that point. And I
yeah,
was still playing mini tours as well. So for me, the inspiration behind, being in the section is obviously because I want to be a PGA professional, but, you know, it's also because I want to play in a lot of golf tournaments. So to have that opportunity, it's just kind of that added bonus to being able to go through, my apprenticeship and go through all my levels and get that completed.
definitely. And you're on your second level now, right? You've completed
Hmm.
the first class, the class A, correct?
Yeah, yeah, that took way too long, but I did complete it.
Man, who you telling, man? I need. I
Uh,
we still talking about. I'm still about to text you about my PAT I got coming up, man.
Hey
Golly,
man, we're gonna get you dialed in, man.
we
We're
gonna
gonna
get it
get you
locked
dialed in.
in, man.
That's it, baby. That's it. What Tiger said, hey, big easy, baby. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Um,
Oh, another thing
what?
while
Go
I'm
ahead,
thinking
Marcus.
about it, as far as like golf golf courses and stuff like that,
Mhm.
based off where you've lived on all three courses, which one would you say like has the most golf per like area and stuff like that. Would you still say Houston has the most golf, or would you say like where you're at now has like so many courses around you, you don't really have to drop anywhere to get to good golf?
Well, that's tougher because right now I'm in such a metro area that we don't have as many golf facilities kind of in the close proximity.
Yeah.
But I would say like if you gave me a 30-minute drive, I could get to a good number of golf courses. I mean, and when I say a good number of golf courses, I'm talking golf courses that are like exponentially above the level of golf that I've been used to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Primo
Just
stuff.
just primo. I mean, within a 30-minute drive, you've got Congressional, you've got Bethesda Country Club, you got Burning Tree Country Club, Columbia Country Club, uh, Kenwood Country Club. I'll throw them in there. You got
Do you buy
RTJ Golf
Greenbrier or
Club.
anything like that?
No, not by there, but RTJ Golf Club, which is where they're hosting the Solheim next year. That's a 30-minute drive.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Wow.
so you got there, you got Raspberry Falls, you got, I mean, the list just goes on and on. Now, I would say for public golf, it's not very conducive, at least in this area, but 40 minutes from me, you've got this huge community up near Frederick, Maryland, of just phenomenal golf courses that are public. I mean, dude, these could be tour courses at some point if they really
Wow.
wanted them to be.
Really?
Yeah, you got some really great layouts. I mean, I got buddies who, who are assistants at those clubs up there, and we get down to there just as much as we get over to my club.
Nice. Cost
Yeah.
efficient?
I can
Like,
see
would you
that.
say it's like all like reasonable, or would you say like some of it's a pretty penny? Well, I guess based off the East Coast, it's a little bit more expensive cost of living as it is, but I guess based off
Yeah,
of that,
I would say peak rate probably at some of them, at most of them is sub 100 peak rate,
wow,
which is
that's
good.
That's
crazy to
interesting.
speak on because you know what we spending out here now. So Wildcats 110
Hmm.
on the weekends now, Black Horse 140. But I will say we got a new superintendent and stuff like that. We really been putting in the work. Green's
Good,
back up to
man.
speed. I mean, I think you'd really love it next time you come out here. Probably got to get something going. But
Yeah.
man, it's so expensive out here now, bro. I
Hmm.
mean, GCOH tournament course 160 to play on the weekends. Like this is the stuff that we're looking at with top notch public compared to what y'all
Wow.
got. Like, and y'all don't even need like a locals card or anything like that, do y'all? Y'all just need to
No,
pull
man.
up. Mm.
Nah, man. And that's the
Memorial
thing. It's
you need a Houston area license inside the
hmm
loop type stuff, or you paying
hmm
160 at Memorial now too. If you
I
got
know,
the
I
if
remember.
you're from Houston, yeah, if you're from Houston, it's
Hmm.
$50. If you're not from
Yep.
Houston, tough shit. Like
That's why I
it's
was always at
insane.
Memorial, bro. I was always there. I live
Always. It's so
3 minutes
primo.
away. It's crazy.
Do you see a lot of indoor golf facilities in that area?
Surprisingly, not as many as you would expect. You got a few of them kind of in the area, but
Might have
they're
some.
none of them to the 5 iron level. Like obviously DC has the 5 iron location. There's
True.
not really much out here, out this way that is like that, I would say. At least I haven't come across it.
Nice. I mean, like, do y'all have like Top Golf and stuff out there, or no? Top Golf hasn't made
Yeah,
it out there yet. Yeah.
no, we got a couple of top golfs in the area. I think they got
Hmm.
like 4 or 5 locations in kind of the DMV area.
That's dope. I mean, the spot I see you at on IG,
Mhm.
is that heated? Are those heated bays, or that's just you just out there?
Man, they got these janky 1970s gas heaters like up top.
Oh
I
no.
mean, it does the job, man. It does the job for the time being,
So
but
you
it's still
underneath it, you sweating bullets, but outside of it, you probably got the shivers going.
nah,
I
ain't
don't know.
sweating, man. It ain't getting that hot. I'm
It
gonna
ain't
just
that
tell
hot.
it to you. I'm gonna just tell it to you like that. It's not that hot. It is not that hot. And surprisingly, man, you would think I'd be the only one in there, and it's not. I'm a dime a dozen of crazy golfers that are out there in that 30-degree weather.
Believable.
Yeah.
Believable. Let's see. You still with Ping?
Of course, man.
What's
Representing
the
on the
specs?
hat.
I know I saw the hat. I got to be polite. What's the specs now?
Hey,
What you playing? What you gaming now?
um, so all right, let's start from the top of the bag. I've got
Yeah, go through your bag. Go through your bag.
I I got the 9-degree 430 LST that's notched to flat but standard loft.
Okay.
That's got the Tour X Flex Kylie Black 70. Yeah, the Tour X 70. That's cut down half an inch. And then no fairway woods. I got two hybrids in the
Hmm.
bag. I got my
Okay.
mean hybrid. I got my floater hybrid. My mean hybrid is 15.5 degrees, so it's turned down to basically a one hybrid.
Yeah.
Um, that's got a Ventus 9X on it. Ventus Blue 9X on it. I think it's a piss missile.
Oh yeah.
uh, and then the hybrid that I have that is the floater hybrid, that's a three hybrid turned up to 22 degrees. And that goes about, I want to say 25 yards shorter than the other one in the air.
Okay.
So that one just kind of floats a little bit more. And then we go four through pitching wedge in the 230s. Those are orange dots, so 2.5 or 2.25 flat minus 3/4 of an inch. So basically makes it to close to about 3 degrees flat. And then those have the Nippon Modus 105X in those. And then I've got a 50-degree. All of my wedges actually are from the Tour van from Ping. So I've got
Nice.
custom grinds on all of them. So the 50s turned down to a 49-degree, and that's got, I forget the name of the bounce, but it's got a little bit of sole relief, so it's not going to cut so deep into the turf. And a little bit of back edge relief, so that way, anytime I want to hit like a little runner, it doesn't get stuck up too much. And then we go into the 56, which actually has the half moon grind. It's an interesting grind. So it takes a little bit off the heel, it takes a little bit off the toe. So it allows me to open it up, but it doesn't take as much off the bottom. So really good out of compact sand. That 56 is actually turned down to a 55. And then
Yeah.
I have a 60-degree that's turned up to a 61. And that's got
Hmm.
the WRX grind from Ping on it, which basically takes most of the back edge of the golf club and rounds it completely off. It's got heel relief, toe relief, leading edge relief. So that 60-degree plays to like 2 degrees of bounce and just collides.
I was about to say that's a pure little spec right there. What would you say
Mm-hmm.
your gapping is between your wedges and stuff? Pitching wedge 46. What would you go 140, 125, 110, 95 type deal? You 15 in between
Um,
or you 10 in between?
I don't ever hit anything full in that capacity, so it's close to about
Okay.
15, right? So I'll probably
Yeah.
hit the pitching wedge. I can max the pitching wedge out, to 153, 154.
Yeah.
But that I kind of try to keep that in the 142 to 146 range. So that's right there. And then for the 50-degree that's turned down, I try to keep that between a 127 to 122 range.
Okay.
Anything more than that, it's gonna carry that distance, but it's just gonna rip. Um,
Yeah.
so
Spin.
oh, it's incredible. I mean, obviously, like the types of grasses are different, but playing on the bent grass
Yeah.
here, the ball definitely does check way more, rips back way more than it does on Bermuda. So unless the greens are firm, that's going to be a 120. Really, the perfect number is 124.
Yeah.
Um,
In your
the 50.
irons, do you have a
Mhm.
gapping? Oh, I'm sorry. I, I'm so just I need to stop. Continue with your wedges before I get into your irons. My bad. I'm
Say
tripping.
less, say less. All good. And then the 56, that one's really a 107 to 111 club. Um, like I said, anything more than that, it's going to rip. But I can also take that number down to as low as, my 50, 60-yard shot. I will kind of go back and forth between the 56 and 60. We'll always default to the 60, but kind of depending on the shot, may grab the 56 for, some of those 40 to 50 yarders. And then the
Hmm.
60-degree is sub 100 yards. I'm not hitting that thing anything more than 87. That's kind of the number for me. That seems to work out pretty well for that number.
Yeah.
Anything higher than that, I'm taking the 56.
Yeah, go into your irons. What would you say is your gapping on your irons? A little tighter, or would you say about the same yardages? And what made you switch from the 230 to the 230s? Because I felt like you're playing much more
Hmm.
like a player's, tour type iron. Didn't you have like, I don't know if you had the blueprints, but you had something similar, right?
Yeah,
Last time we were chopping it up with your about your irons.
I had the blueprints and I wanted something that was going to be a little bit more forgiving than the OG blueprint. Just having that
Gotcha.
all the way through the bag was just not the right gapping for me. Um,
Yeah.
I hit them great, but I was kind of like, all right, I'm giving up a lot to play these irons right now. Just
Mm,
especially because I was just like, all right, I was at a slower speed. Like honestly, now where I'm at speed wise, I could go back to playing those irons again tomorrow and it would be just fine. But
hmm
I slowed down for a while there. I was like, man, it was the slowest I think I've ever been. I think I was like 112 average club head speed with the driver.
Yeah.
And so, off center hits at that point are not really good, and it's crazy because now we're back up to like cruising speeds at 119, topping out 124.
Yeah.
So we got the speed back. So it's like I can actually, I'm getting fit for the new blueprints that are coming out. So, the idea is to kind of dial that back in a little bit because I do have a little bit of some distance gapping issues with the 230s just at the speed that I'm playing at right now.
Would you go
You
different shafts?
mentioned
Hmm. Definitely different shafts. The 105,
Heavier?
a little heavy. I want to go something a little bit heavier, something that's got a little bit of a flatter ball flight than maybe the Modus. I've always liked the Modus shaft. It's my go-to anytime I'm struggling with irons is to go back to that, just because it does feel really good in my hand. But we'll probably want to go to something that's going to give me a little bit of a flatter ball flight for this upcoming year.
was checking out your IG. Looks like you are sponsored by or your club carries Ripstick. Is that how you got your speed back, or what did you do to increase your speed back to where you previously were?
Yeah, definitely spent some time using the ripstick, and a couple other pieces of equipment such as like downshift golf. Got a great relationship with those guys over there. They've supplied us with so many resistance bands and tools that we can use to help players, understand how to use the ground. And as well as working with someone, I've put a lot of time in this last couple years, asking questions to, great professionals, but have had a pretty close working relationship with a local pro here. His name's Suck Ree. If you guys don't follow him, I highly recommend that you do. He's part of the Eisman Golf Academy. Those guys have done some amazing work over the last couple of years. Building out their new facility. They've got gaffs, they got smart to move, they've got swing catalysts, track bands. They got the whole deal when it comes to the data side of golf. And to be able to work with those guys, we've really put a lot of time in and just understanding the sequencing of my move and within that we've been able to do some work and kind of identify a few things that we needed to work on and spend some time working on that, and then as well as just spending more time in the gym taking care of my body. Been getting some physio work done recently, some chiropractic work, some soft tissue work. I've been that on that pretty regularly probably for the last 3 months or so, and that all of those things kind of together have basically created this snowballing effect where body feels good, mechanics are in a good place, sequencing's in a good place, and just putting the time in, man. Honestly, that's really the biggest thing is just being dedicated to putting the time in and working on it.
Definitely. Would you say that with your workload, would you say that you prefer to practice before work or after work? Or how early are you going into work? Like what's the day what's go through like your day in the life for one day, John? Would you say you wake up early to get to the course? Or like would you say that you sleep in, you'd rather do most of your work later at night? Like what would you say you
Hmm.
would is your go-to?
Well, I'm gonna just kind of preface this right now. Off season's a little different because we don't have as much going on, so I'm getting a little bit more free time, a little bit more time to relax, not quite as in a routine, like per se. But when the season kicks on, it's tough. I mean, we're in the office 5 days a week, so you know,
Yeah.
as much as I'm spending time teaching, which this year I think I did close to 400, 500 lessons, and then a number of clinics. we're still spending 5 days a week in the operation. So we're spending, at least 7 hours a day tied up between running tournaments, building tournaments, working with just your everyday outside staff, needs, golf course
Yeah.
needs, place to play. And then after those 7 hours in the day, that's kind of when you get your free time to either try to go play, try to go practice, spend time teaching, or you're just going home. And honestly, for me, because I'm a golf addict. I'm a nerd. I'm when it comes to golf, just like everybody else, bro. So like, I have no problem spending 12 hours a day at the golf course. And so, on season, we're probably opening up the golf shop 6:30, 7 a.m. So we're there pretty early. Um, be there till about 1 o'clock, and then from 1 o'clock to I want to say 6 or 7 o'clock, we're spending that time either teaching, practicing, or playing. Coming home
Mm-hmm.
about 7 o'clock, either skipping dinner at that point and going to the gym, doing some sort of active recovery or workout. And then we're back upstairs, probably cooking by 8 o'clock and hopefully in bed by 10. That's always ideal. The in bed by 10 thing probably never really happens on a regular basis.
Right.
It's a goal to have. It's a goal to have.
Definitely a goal to have, but there's more often times that we're going to bed at 1 a.m. than we are 10 a.m. or 10 p.m. But it's they're long days. When we're in season, we're there 10 to 12 hours a day, 5 to 6 days a week. So you have to be very structured with your time. My big word for this year is just being intentional with my time.
Yeah.
Trying to spend as much time doing things that are of the intention for the goal for the year, rather than just kind of passing through and trying to get a lot of things fit into one day. So we're trying to take a little bit of control back on the scheduling part this year.
That's dope. In connection with that, Dom, what would you say like is like your workforce? Like what would you say, like would you say when y'all open up the shop, is it mostly you and the other, assistant pros running the shop? Do y'all have actual pro shop attendants and things like
Hmm.
that? Like how does your shop vary compared to like, your former work? Like Gus
Hmm.
Wortham, it's pro shop attendants.
Hmm.
Wildcat is pro shop attendants, but also, assistant pros, like when me and Chase are behind the counter and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Like, what would you say is like your kind of like your work pyramid as far as that goes?
Yeah, so kind of structure wise, we have, our head professional, and then underneath him, we've got four assistant professionals, including myself, one
Mm-hmm.
director of instruction, a head starter, two other starters, and then we have two pro shop not attendants. They're actually pro shop merchandisers slash, you know, they take care of everything from the shop. We run a really good retail aspect at our club. And so they've kind of taken over the ordering and invoicing and
Yeah.
management of the shop. So it's good to have them. They've been a huge addition to the team this year, just because they've really helped us, as on the assistant professional side, be able to kind of take a step away from the pro shop side of things and spend a little bit more time in the experience. And how can we help our outside staff work better? How can we help run tournaments a little bit better? How can we focus a little bit more on player development? So it's allowed us this freedom to spend a little bit more time on some of the things that we would say would really help the experience aspect for our club.
Yeah. Are y'all completely private? Like, do y'all even have tea
Hmm.
times and stuff like that? Oh,
No,
that's a
completely
breeze.
private. Completely private.
Yeah. So
We
that's
have
why y'all out the shop by one.
yeah.
Lucky. You
Well,
ain't got to
I
have
mean,
nobody in there.
we try to, man. Those closing shifts get kind of late. Peak closing time in summertime, and this. You're getting out of the golf course at 9 o'clock at night. You know
At the
how it. You
earliest
at the
type
earliest.
shit.
You know how it
Type
goes,
shit.
man. So
Yeah.
it has its pros, it has its cons. We all love to open. Let's just put it that way.
1000%. Thousand
Right.
percent.
No one wants to be in that closing shift, man. I had that Sunday closing shift, that clean pick, clean pick day.
Boy. Oh, our clean pick is still Monday. We lucky. We close it down early, but man, when we got tea times going till 5:36 during the summer, oh
Hmm.
man. Oh,
Ain't
So
nobody in
you've
at
talked
sunset.
about
golly, man.
no, no. Those cards come back well after that.
Pitch dark.
Oh, completely.
You talked about a lot of things that you love about, the teaching aspect. What's something that you just absolutely just dread, take that deep breath to deal with in the golf industry?
Mm, that's a good question. There's not a lot, man. There's really
Look
not
at
a
you
lot.
being in love
Okay.
with the game, Dom. Okay,
Man,
look
I'm
at
telling you,
you.
I mean, I'm looking starry eyed, looking up. I mean,
He's
that's
not
No,
jaded
I
yet.
think
I
I
mean,
like
but
it all right
it's
now. Yeah, I think I
refreshing.
like it all.
man.
That's
I'm
No,
for
it's
real.
look.
That's dope.
refreshing.
I'll tell you what, man. It's easy to become jaded in a lot of different ways in a lot of different parts of the game. But golf's been really good to me, man. I can't call it any other way, man.
That's good, man. Let's get into some of your favorite courses, bro. Favorite
Man,
courses, favorite
ooh, that's a
places, favorite golf trip compared to like favorite golf. Like, you might
Well,
not have had your best golf courses at a place,
hmm
but you had your best golf trip. Let's get
hmm
into it.
Man, let's get into it because this year is actually a big golf year for me, man. I had golf in 8 different states this year.
Yeah, let's get
Um,
in it.
I'll tell you what, the one of the coolest experiences that I had was actually this fall. I took my fiance down to North Carolina, just outside of Asheville. I want to say about an hour outside of Asheville, southwest of Asheville. There's this club called Old Edwards Club. And man, let me tell you, it's up in Highlands, North Carolina. The 11th hole there drops about 120 feet. So you're just
hmm.
looking out, and you're on
Mm.
basically on top of a mountain range, looking out across everything, and all you see is just these rolling mountains. Absolutely incredible views. Such a stunning golf course. Total resort and inn vibe. Just a laid back club that's just tucked away and just one of the most beautiful and serene spots I've ever seen. Which that was probably one of the coolest golf experiences I had this year.
Dope.
Cool.
Yeah, but
Um,
there's some
I
other
want
good
go
courses
ahead.
too, man. There's some other really good courses. Um, Creighton Farms, which is a top 10 in Virginia. Got to play that one on my birthday. That was a fun one.
Okay.
Kind of rolling hills out west of DC. You get some pretty drastic elevation changes that's just runs with the land. It plays like 7,600 yards from the tips in just
Mm.
immaculate condition. Just one of the best
Hmm.
tests of golf that you can find anywhere around here.
Cool. I'm gonna hit you with some rapid fire questions. So you
Mhm.
can't waffle on these. You gotta come with your best. So
All right,
we're gonna hit it. Personal best score ever.
64.
Sweet. What's your favorite golf course you've ever played?
Pasa Tiempo.
Okay. Favorite athlete of all time.
Tiger Woods.
Okay. Favorite food.
Ooh, beef fajita enchiladas.
Okay. Straight Texas right
Down,
there.
down, down home,
Favorite
baby.
movie.
Favorite movie. Interstellar.
Okay. And favorite musical artist.
Man, yeah, we gotta go with Drake. There's too many. There's too many in the play. There's too many in the playlist. That's the most light skin answer ever. But
I
Nah,
know.
bro.
You said
Listen,
it, I didn't. You
Dom,
said it, I didn't.
it's crazy, bro. He was my top artist this year. I was so mad, but then I'm looking back and I'm like, bro, timeless, bro, got the hits, man. He got them hoes, bro.
dude, I'm
Oh
telling you,
man.
it
Wow.
has not failed. It's been every year for the last 7, man. It's
I'm
it's
about to
crazy.
drop an IG reel and I'm sitting here trying not to use a Drake song in my background. I swear to God, bro. I swear to you.
There's too many bars
Uh,
that fit. There's too many bars that fit, man.
truly. Truly, man.
Mm, crazy.
Sweet. What else you got, Marcus, for Dom?
Um what oh, we've been talking about this the last couple of weeks. New Year type
hmm
stuff, end of the year. What
hmm
would you say were your goals for 23 personally as far as your golf game goes? and what are you trying to take into 2024? Like, and you know what I mean by that. Like,
Hmm.
trying to shoot consistently this, trying to flight it this way. Like, do you have a certain window you looking at? Do you have a
Yeah.
certain strike pattern you looking for and stuff like that? You know what I'm saying? Get into
Hmm.
that. What was your 2023 goals, and what has changed to your 2024 goals?
Well, so 2023 for me was a big transition year. Moving across the country, that was definitely something that's, it's hard to do. It's
Step
not
out of the
easy.
norm. Yeah.
It's stepping out of the norm, man. And so, the big thing for me was I wanted to kind of ingrain myself into the community here, but playing, I wanted to become one of those guys that everybody kind of looked at and was like, all right, every time he's in an event, I know he's here and I know he's probably going to play well. So that
Yeah.
consistency factor, you know what I mean? And within that, it's been a year that has been a grind. I wouldn't say this was a bad year. Had some pretty much top 20 in every event that I played in this year, um, outside of one event, and played well, but I didn't feel like I competed. I felt like I played okay,
Mm,
but I wasn't there truly competing. I wasn't at the level where I felt like, all right, I can go into any single event and be like, all right, there's a possibility that I'm going to take this one home. So, going into this off season, I wanted to start ahead of everybody else. I didn't want to take an off season. So I've actually spent the last 3 months just grinding. Regardless, rain, sleet, snow, we've been at the gym, we've been focusing on our body, been spending as much time working on my game as possible. And I think the biggest thing for me, and this is something that I've wanted to develop over the last few years, was really just the stock shot. You know, I've
yeah.
been one of those players that really shapes the ball each direction, going out to events. And when it's on, man, it's really hard to beat because like I can get to flags that other people can't get to.
Right. You
I,
can shoot at whatever.
being said, it is much harder to play golf where every single day you're not going to shoot yourself in the foot. And
Yeah.
that's the
Trying
big
to
one
pull
for
off
me.
a shot that you think you can hit, but it ain't
Hmm.
come off as it is. So now we in shit when
Hmm.
really I should have just played this draw instead of trying to play this
Hmm.
power fade. Oh, mm,
Trust me, you
let's
know
go
it.
on for
You
days
know it.
about that. Let's go on for days about it.
And bro, the big thing is like actually understanding like if you're not trying to like manually shape a ball, how do you just play a stock shot? How do you feel like you
Yeah.
can move the same way every single time? And that's been the big thing about understanding my pattern, understanding how I load and unload the golf club and how that helps me create a golf shot. And so for me, it's been, you know, trying to really harness this little 5 to 7 yard cut that I've been, developing over the last few years. Uh,
Yeah.
and so it's this going into this year, the only thing I want to focus on is just consistency. Just being able to take what I have worked on so hard in the off season and get that to translate to tournament golf. And then from there, seeing where the chips fall. But just to be
yeah.
competitive and as competitive as possible. And I know that equipping myself with the things that I've been working on, it's only going to give me the opportunity to say, hey, like this year is going to be a big year. It's going to be a very big year, hopefully, for the playing side.
I'm gonna be a
Good.
hater. We need somebody to come knock Michael Block off of his PGA professional throne. I think
Hey,
dude's getting
man.
getting too much shine.
Hey man, I'll tell you what, I would stop teaching golf lessons and be drinking Miller Lights too. So shit.
For sure. For sure. Oh,
Sweet.
putter. What putter you
Hmm.
use?
Man, I still got the Peretti in the bag, the old school Peretti. Shout out to Houston.
Look at you. What's your favorite putting distance
My favorite putting
that you
distance,
work on and stuff like that?
the ones that go in.
This guy. Oh my.
Whatever distance that is, they just got to go in.
This guy. Respectable.
Sweet.
Oh
All
man,
right. Well,
you
I
know
think
what it
we've
is.
we've had we've had a great conversation. I've enjoyed having you on the show, my guy. Let me ask you one little question before we kind of close it out.
Mhm.
What would be the biggest piece of advice that you'd give to amateur golfers that's universal, that is either
Mhm.
a misconception or that could get them to a place where they're playing respectable golf the quickest?
Yeah. Stop taking IG golf tips today. Today.
Okay.
Today. I mean, because in reality, if we're thinking about golf from an instructional standpoint, there are really five metrics I think that you have to take a look at. All right. You've got skills, right? And when we say skills, that's not necessarily is your golf swing pretty, right? That is, if I ask you to hit a shot 10 yards, does it go 10 yards? Okay.
Yep.
Mm.
Second thing, physical ability, right? Can that person move? Is this person an athletic person, or are there certain limitations that they have within their body? And knowing and understanding what those are and how those correlate to a golf swing. Because everything that we do within our golf swing is a product of our mobility. It's a product of how we can load and unload our muscles and the entire structure of our body. So you got to understand that. Third thing is you got to understand the strategy and the mental side. There's no getting around it. Golf is a mental game. You have to have an understanding for what you are trying to do in an objective, and you have to have a strategy for how you're going to attack that. If you're not focused on that, you're going to make mistakes. And one shot seems like just one shot. But if you're losing one shot every hole for 18 holes, you've lost 18 shots.
Mm.
I would say the fourth thing you have to understand is you have to understand your swing signature. Okay, so we're talking about swing signature. You got to understand what are the certain things that make your golf swing work. You have to understand your patterns. Okay, what are you seeing ball flight wise? What are you seeing launch wise? And then the last thing I would always say to golfers is to develop yourself personally. Um, you have to learn in golf specifically because it is such a long, drawn out process to go play good golf. You're thinking about a 4 hour to 4.5 hour window that you have to be locked in for. If you are not thinking, being able to focus in on your breathing, if you're not being able to focus in on your thoughts, if you're not able to focus in on how you are dealing with adversity on the golf course or how you're dealing with, being in trouble like off the tee, right? And the wheels are spinning and everything's going, how can you get yourself out of that? And that's a personal thing that you have to deal with. I think golf can't be fixed in 2 seconds. It just can't because it doesn't translate because there's so many variations that we have to take a look at for you to be able to play good golf. It's not playing simulator golf where you're playing on a flat lie and perfect surfaces all the time. So you got to start to
Agreed.
understand all of these things as an entity together. And if you can do that, that's where the good golf is played, is where you're focusing on it in the right way, understanding the tangible things that you can do to really try to improve rather than just focusing on one little thing that might work or may not work.
That's
That's
dope.
dope.
I think one thing that I want to ask you, and it's perfect, perfect segue because it's about instruction
Mhm.
and inspiration as far as that goes. Would you still say that the Axis guys are your biggest inspiration as far as teaching goes? Or would you say like one of the prominent guys that, we see on Golf Channel and that we
Mhm.
see on, YouTube and stuff a bunch? Would you say that's who you try to predicate your teaching style after? Or how would you say you teach your style? Like, would you say you teach a formula as far as golf goes? Because I remember, like, I can't off the top of my head remember who it was, but they're like, we teach a cut here. Whatever you
Mhm.
do here, we teach a cut. Right? And it's kind of like restrictive to me. Like, how would you say you go about that, Dom?
I would say that well, let me answer your first question first. It's not just the Axis guys. It's an encompassing community
A
of
journey.
of golf coaches, right? That I've been able to interact with, take lessons from, just talk with, and being around in that community that's helped me grow. But also just teaching a lot of golf lessons, seeing how a
Yeah.
number of different movement patterns, seeing a number of different types of body types, seeing a number of different type of swing types, like there's no replacing experience when it's coming to this. Like you have to have an eye for it.
Facts.
But when it really comes down to, the teaching philosophy, it is probably I feel like I teach a very unrestrictive model, meaning that we are going to do whatever is the easiest way for you to get the best performance and repeat
Yeah.
it. and repeat it and repeat it and repeat it. We're focusing on your fundamentals, and a lot of it has to do with movement. I would say that a lot of my teaching, has to go around the biomechanics side and understanding how do we load our muscle structure, how do we unload our muscle structure, and then how do those certain dynamics that we produce with those forces interact with the golf club. And if we can understand how those forces that we use in our feet, how we use those torques in our body, how it affects the golf club, we use that to basically help us understand our pattern, understand what ball flight we can play, what miss that we'll have, what effect this is going to have on our golf game strategy wise, and then take that and help our students build skills from there. Because once you have a stock shot in mind, once you have, the pattern that helps us develop something that we can see that is repeatable, it's all about building skills from that point on. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. You need to build that person's skills and ability to deal with adversity in any situation, whether they've got a ball in a divot or it's plugged in the sand or they're behind a tree and they've got to shape one, right? Like you have to understand how to go play golf. It's not just about the golf swing. It's such a small portion to actually playing good golf.
Well said.
Well, my guy, if I think we said this a lot on this show, go find you a PGA professional in your local area. If
Mhm.
you're in Virginia, you'd be a fool to not go find Dominic at his course. Go join, Westwood Country Club. Seems like the value would be there. I'm sitting there
Mhm.
like, man, I could listen to you talk about golf all damn day.
Hey man,
Talking
we could
about
we
the
could do this
journey and
again, man. We could do a
no
straight golf
doubt,
instruction
Oh no, no,
podcast.
no. We're gonna get that organized regardless. Look. I
no
was gonna say
doubt,
that off
no
off
doubt.
off stream, so we'll get to that, Dom, for real.
You got it, brother.
No doubt. Where can people find you on socials?
Yeah, find me on IG. It's Dominic Reed Golf. It's Reed has two E's, Reed. Dominic Reed Golf on everything. So
Sweet. All
Perfect.
right, we will do it again for sure. Not enough to fit in just an hour. We could do 2 3 hours of this nerdy
mhm.
golf talk. But appreciate you guys joining us, Bearded Bros Golf Show. We'll be back at it again. I'm gonna chop this one up. You're gonna see clips throughout the week from our conversation, so be looking out for that. We'll catch you guys next week. I'm
All
Rod.
right.
And I'm
I'm
Marcus.
Dom. And I'm Dom. See you guys.
Peace.